got one with this one, Melody. Crazy.
All right, shalom to elect Israel, to the whole elect Israel, you Hebrew Israelites, you so-called Negro, Latinos, Native Americans, West Indians, Haitians, foreign Israelites that look like the other nations scattered across the four corners of the earth. Want to give all praise to Barak, Barak. Got to give all praises to Yahawah, Bahasham, Bahasham, Rawchaa, Qadash, name of the Heavenly Father, who everybody ignorantly calls God. His true name in the ancient Hebrew, which is in the Rawchaa Qadash. His true name is Yahawah. Bahasham means in the name of Yahawashi is the Holy One of Israel. Everybody ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, so-called Negro from the tribe of Judah, who was slain at the foundations of the earth for the salvation of the elect of Israel. Then you got 2/3 of the wicked Israelites here in America, Babylon the Great, and the other wicked Israelites scattered across the four corners of the earth that'll come back to the loins of the elect after the destruction. The Rawchaa Qadash is the Holy Spirit that's been bestowed upon the men. The Heavenly Father gave his only begotten Son out of the world to complete this work. So we always want to give double honors to the elders and apostles of great millstone. Let us all to the truth and been ordained by the Lord to teach the flock how to live, repent, pray, fast, serve with the Lord's righteousness and mercy, judgment, forgiveness, and baptisms are part of the elect to the hopeful elect. Lord, wouldn't be part of that number, Lord. be edifying those who fear in the name of the Lord, striving to show forth the Lord's righteousness. 2 Peter 3:9 is unto a ring. 2 Ezra chapter 5, verse 42. Shalom, I used to say believers out there tuning in here on after Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham, Qadash, Barak, Atham. We're going to get into various, actually just one topic that the EU, which is European Union, Canada, and UK, have put on the US. Okay, and you got a lot of speculation going out there saying that it's false. But one thing about America, Babylon the Great, some information like this, they're never going to tell you just flat out. But there's ways that people have been able to receive this information, and through the elders and apostles, the spirit of the elders and apostles, they're able to tell us what's credible and what's not. So this is Elder Malcolm's channel. He was going into this, the other day, and we're going to kind of read through a couple things as well to kind of just back up the claim that this is credible information that we're getting it at, but it's in a way where, you're going to have the spirit to be able to see it. But we're going to read through some of it and show you how a lot of these, people who, because it said in Psalms, it said they'll make sure their tongues fall upon themselves, which is like basically saying Edomites, so-called white people that are insiders, they're basically leaking some of this information, but they can't do it in a sense where it's tied to them. So they're using AI to basically do that in a sense. So we're going to show you how they're doing that. We're going to go into a couple. There's another video I want to tie to this and show you actually, because they try to claim this source is incredible, but there's another source that's as credible that's saying the same thing. You got people that's, with top officials in the U.S. that, retired in the sense of where they were still had an honorable sense of like they were still honored as soldiers and generals in the military. And they're speaking about it too. Because they still watching, man. That's all their life revolves around. So I'm going to put this in here too. Just give me a sec. Computer going real slow. Right. Just got to pause this real quick. Then we'll go and watch Elder Malcolm's video. Okay, we got that pause. All right. We're going to watch some of this, and then we can go.
2 Ezra 6. And 8. And he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. Call Halal, Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham, Rawchaa, honors unto the elder bishops, salutations to their lives and their Therefore, the 144,000, the tabernacle of David.
And I want to point out his video first before he gets into this. His video, his channel is GMS Maccabean Spirit 144. It's the Elder Malcolm. So subscribe and be edified if you haven't got his channel yet. He goes into a lot of different various topics. You know, he's the head elder in Chicago. So we're going to watch some of what he was saying, and we're going to kind of back up some of his claims, why he is calling some of these channels that he's pulling up credible.
The men of Israel, 12,000 men from each of the 12 tribes of Israel, which primarily make up the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, despite of what you feel about it or how you think about it. And to the rest of the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth among the heathen nations that have the appearance of the heathen nations. This is not a black only thing. And to the few Akwaf that are listening and learning, to you, I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the great millstone, coming at you another brutal lesson of truth. And I'm just going to tell you that the kingdom of heaven is at hand. The end of all things is at hand. We're in the last moments of the last days where the last few prophecies, in which all major prophecies are playing out. Okay? Meanwhile, you still got people talking about what they're going to build and what they're going to do. And why do the heathen? Let me read that. This is Psalms 2. And 1. And it reads, why do the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing? The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against Yahawah and against his anointed, saying, let us break asunder and cast away their cords from us. So they just go on, carrying on, think that their kingdoms are going to continue, and that they're just going to rule over us, and we're just going to remain scattered and lost and a no people, persona non grata, forever. You know, that we're just going to remain with these false racial.
And when he said persona non grata, it just means to be cursed. And there was a quote from Yahawashi. He specifically said that for somebody not to believe on the Most High, you know, for them to be persona non grata, that's talking about just being cursed, because we are, you know, we are under the curses. So what he's saying is they're expecting us to never really rise up from the conditions that they put us in.
You know, creations that they made up, you know, black, Hispanic, colored, native, you know, Asian, all these. No, that time is over. That truth is coming out left and right. It's becoming a major talk point. You know, the fraud and the fakeness of the creation of whiteness, the creation of the Yiddish. Okay, just so many things that Esau made up to fit his narrative that he created, this controlled narrative, and now it's all falling apart. All right, so without any further ado, I'm going to play a couple portions of these videos. This one says globally. I typed in globally to stun Trump with sanctions he didn't see coming. And this is by Rick Wilson. So this came out of the mouths of 2 or 3 witnesses. This is coming from multiple sources. All right. So here we go. Damn commercial. Son of a. You bastards.
On Mike Miguel, 3 minutes.
Shut up, man.
So here it is.
So check
the
this out.
unthinkable just became official. The United States, long seen as a beacon of democracy, has now been hit with coordinated.
Let's start that.
So
again.
here it is. The unthinkable just became official. The United States, long seen as a beacon of democracy, has now been hit with coordinated sanctions by its own allies, not by China, not by Iran, not by Russia, but by the European Union, the United Kingdom, Canada, and Australia, the same partners who once stood with us from Normandy to Kandahar, and now they have locked arms to penalize the very nation they once called indispensable. Think of.
Oh boy. Ooh-wee. Yeah.
Right. So when we go over here, we go to this video. There's another video that he pulled up from another channel called the William Debate, and they already took that video down. You can't even find it nowhere no more. That's why the apostles, the Lord be putting the spirit on them to go over a particular video, because they be taking that shit down quick, man. Especially when, you know, it's something that's definitely legitimate. Okay. And that's why we say, like, you know, don't be surprised if elders channels start getting taken down, because they're trying to basically call it misinformation. Like, I even put Elder Malcolm's video in the chat GPT, and it pulled it up and was like, oh, this is all misinformation. This ain't the truth. But that's what they're always going to say, you know? You know, they're always going to say that, man. But this is why Elder Malcolm, you know, has the spirit to be able of discernment to be able to understand that how they're using this AI basically to pull out the truth, because these government officials, they're never going to tell you stuff like this, man. What's the point of telling you? Like, what you going to do about it anyways? You're just going to be like, oh shit, and then you're going to take your ass back to work and you ain't going to do nothing about it. There's no reason for them to give us any kind of information about what's really going on and what's finna happen. So there's other ways that people are using AI to warn us. And the Lord's, you know, allowing that, because he needs the prophets to come prophesy about this. So we're going to go into this and show you how they do this. So it says basically Rick Wilson breaks down decades of trust collapse overnight, right? So let's first look up, who is Rick Wilson? Who is that? Let's look him up real quick. So you can kind of get an understanding on, you know, who they're getting this information from, because he's never going to come out there and say, look what they did to MLK when he started publicly speaking about stuff. They're smarter than that now. Edomites that's really got insiders and stuff, they're not going to say that out loud. Okay. And they're using AI to basically still get their point across. So who is Rick Wilson? Who is that? It says Rick Wilson is a political strategist, media consultant, and author in the United States. He is best known as a Republican political consultant who has worked on numerous campaigns, but in recent years, he has become widely recognized for his vocal criticism of former President Donald Trump and the Trump-aligned wing of the Republican Party. So he's in the Republican Party going against the Republican Party. Basically, that's who he is. Background: he has decades of experience in Republican Party politics, including work on Senate and gubernatorial campaigns. His media presence: he's a frequent commentator on television and social media, often discussing political strategy, election, and international GOP dynamics. So this is something that he would speak about. Okay. He has written books criticizing Trump and modern Republican Party, notably Everything Trump Touches Dies. He wrote that in 2018. And Running Against the Devil in 2020. So he really stands on being against Trump, even though he's in the Republican Party. See what I'm saying? So this is something that we know that he would probably say, but he doesn't want to say it out loud. Okay? So they have sources like this where he'll tell his insiders and they'll go post this stuff somewhere to make it look like it's not credible, but it's still credible. So he can get his point across, because that's what he likes doing. But he has to be careful what he's saying, so he can get fucking shot in the neck like Charlie Kirk. Okay? So that's why they're being careful how they're talking about this shit. Okay? But we're going to continue and go back to read in the captions basically what this channel it was built for and put out there for. Okay? And you know how they be demonetizing videos. They'll take videos, they'll make it seem like so many people viewed it, but way more people viewed it. That's why in the last 2 days it's already got 12,000 views, because a lot of people are actually watching this channel because they know it's credible, because they're smart. So it says, disclaimer, this channel is an independent analysis project and is not affiliated with any political figure, media outlet, or organization, right? So they can put their shit out here. The style is inspired by a sharp edge cut through the nonsense commentary of Wick Wilson, right? So they be basically finding all these videos and letting AI sift through it, because a lot of times you can't. In some of these videos, they'll be in a whole congressman of people and they be talking and they'll single out their voice and catch all what they saying, man, because they be in there talking about other shit that they're not talking about online. That kind, the kind that doesn't sugarcoat reality or tiptoe around power. All voices featured, they're AI generated solely to improve clarity and accessibility for viewers. So they got an AI voice talking, but it's his words. Like, this is what he be saying. Okay, especially what it's saying. We use advanced lip sync technology and cinematic narration to highlight moments where politics reveals true incentives, the backroom motives, the quiet hypocrisies, the strategic misfires that shape the nation far more than headline admits. Every video blends verified information, because they got insiders, pointed commentary, and dramatized storytelling to deliver an experience that's both engaging and uncomfortably honest. Nothing here constitutes financial or legal or medical advice. AI tools are used for production, editing, and subtitles to ensure our content remains accessible, including for viewers who are deaf and hard of hearing, and always with transparency. They're about giving you what they're not telling you online. Okay? And the Lord's not going to put the spirits on the prophets to have all these secrets and then not know where to find the information, man. This is credible information. Now, if you can't believe that, then, you know, whatever. But we believe what the elders telling us, man. And it says that Wick Wilson is somebody who goes against stuff like this. So we're going to go to Obadiah. I'm going to probably do another video tonight. I want to go over something else too that I want to point out. But, you know, I'll probably do it later, you know, and, you know, I want to build some stuff around it and make some points. We're going to do a precept and then we're going to go back to what the elder was saying. This is Obadiah chapter 1, verse 1. You know, we read these all the time. Obadiah chapter 1, verse 1, the vision of Obadiah. Thus saith the Lord Yahawashi concerning Edom. Talk about Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. We have heard a rumor from the Lord, right? That rumor is coming out from the prophets. The prophets come out and say, look, we heard certain stuff is going on. EU, Australia, these particular people are sanctioning America, right? Before the general public has an understanding of what's happening. That's where it's always been. We get what's going on in the earth from the elders, man, and apostles. The Lord is dealing with them like that, man. So we have heard a rumor from the Lord, and an ambassador is sent among the heathens. So all the heathens have their ambassadors. Okay, they're coming up, and we're saying to y'all that this is what they're doing. Arise ye, let us rise up against her in battle. Talking about America, Babylon the Great. That's what it's talking about. We're going to read a couple more, and we're going to read one in Jeremiah, but then we're going to show you in the Apocrypha a bunch of different times it talked about Babylon being destroyed. And it wasn't talking about the old Neo-Babylonian Empire, because that had already fallen. Okay? And these talk about it'll never be inhabited again. So we know that this is talking about a different Babylon, which is America, Babylon the Great. So we're going to continue.
If you don't understand the gravity of this information that's just been shared across your screen, you have no idea. All right, and I'm gonna tell you this: a house divided cannot stand. This is not Matthew. I want Mark 3 and 23, and it reads, and he called them unto him and said unto them in parables, how can Satan cast out Satan? And if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. And if Satan rise against Satan, and be divided, he cannot stand but have an end. So Satan, the adversary, the human adversary, who's the adversary of everything that is righteous and is holy, is the adversary of God, the adversary of Yahawashi, the adversary of the Lord's people, and definitely the adversary of mankind. That human adversary, which is Esau, Edom, the self-proclaimed white man. All right, as you can see, this one, he's really red. Love it when they wear white shirts. Proves the point. When it first came out, red all over. This is what the Bible is talking about. The Edomites. And they were ordained in the Bible to rule in the last kingdom of earth before the kingdom of heaven is set up here on earth as it is in heaven. All right, they were, and that was punishment to the Lord's people, the Israelites. So we're going to go to another video. Let's go to this one now. And I'm going to let him speak for about 5 or 6 minutes.
So you see this one right here? Global leaders stunned Trump with sanctions he didn't see coming, right? So this is on this channel right here. And they always do it on channels where it's like, it's not a lot of people able to get a hold of this. But see how it says 400, it says 4.24 thousand subscribers, right? 16 videos, that's all that's on there, right? So we will be able to see this video in here. And it's not even in here, man. I looked through every single one of them. So they took it down already, man. Why if it wasn't credible, why would they take it down? It's only like 16 videos on this channel. Right? You can look through this, man. I went and found it and looked around. The video that he's showing right now is not even on this channel, man. Nowhere. That's how quick they are to take some shit down, man. Real fast. So what we're seeing right now is something that the Lord put the spirit on Elder Malcolm to pull up before they took the shit down, man. So don't be surprised if Elder Malcolm's channel get taken down. That's why we tell you, be watching every day, man. Because a lot of the stuff you might wait a day and then the shit get taken down and you didn't miss the message, man. You know? So let's watch it.
The European Union, the United Kingdom, Canada, and Australia
and the names and titles of every video that's played is right there at the bottom. Who put it up, the name of it, you know, the number of subscribers, it's all there. Don't ask.
And I went and looked to it, man, and it's already part of it. They taken out of there. So I'm telling you, man. Apostles and elders, man, the Lord is having them do stuff where you got to be watching, Jake, or you aren't gonna know what's happening.
Announced coordinated sanctions. So the European Union, the United Kingdom, Canada, and Australia just announced coordinated sanctions against the United States for the first time in history. You heard that right. America's closest allies, the nations that have stood with us through 2 world wars, through the Cold War, through every global crisis for nearly a century.
Now, I believe this is an AI guy. The person's not real, but the information checks out. Just for the record. All right.
Have imposed.
See how he said it's AI, but it checks out. The information checks out. This is to protect the political people who are trying to actually, you know, speak about this stuff. Okay? Because you had people up there who was telling on their own nation, man. Just like JFK, there's way more of them out there. Okay?
Imposed economic penalties on the country they once considered their indispensable partner. And the target is unmistakably clear. Donald Trump and his inner circle. The sanctions freeze assets, ban travel, and restrict financial transactions for Trump, 17 members of his administration, and over 40 American companies connected to his business empire.
And what happened when we spoke about, we was talking about the other day, they had something credible saying that EU is planning to go to war. Basically, you know, they say with Russia by 2030, but really, what are they doing? They're turning on Babylon. And the same people who ran this place It's saying this guy right here, Scott Ritter, right? You go over here, you listen to this Edomite, Scott Ritter. Let's look him up so you can know who he is. Well, we look right here. Scott Ritter, former U.S. Marine, intelligence officer, and UN weapons inspector. Okay? So he was in the military, and his job was to inspect the United Nations weapons, man, and make sure they're all working or whatever he's supposed to do. Right? This is who this is. And what is he saying? The U.S. now considers EU an enemy. Why? Because they just sanctioned, man. This is 2 days ago right here. 281,000 subscribers. This is a credible channel right here. Okay? 145,000 views 2 days ago. This is credible. And he's saying the same thing this little shoot off AI video is saying over here. The Elder Malcolm was talking about. Right? That's how you know this is really what is happening. That's why you got real credible sources come out and talking about it. Intelligence officer, he's talking about it. The U.S. now considers the EU an enemy. Why? Because they're over here doing this.
Ooh-wee.
The announcement came simultaneously from Brussels, London, Ottawa, and Canberra at precisely 6 a.m. Eastern Time.
And even Barack Obama came out of the woodwork and spoke on something about how Trump businesses were still connected to people, to nations as he was the president, and to some of those nations that were that are not our allies. He's still doing businesses with all these people. So, you know, I'll see what comes of that. I mean, you can't trust nothing to come out of Barack Obama's mouth either. But the walls are falling in on Donald Trump and his administration and the whole breakup. And maybe that's why they're trying to make you, you know, a T word, an enemy to the state, if you speak negatively about MAGA now. Now they're trying to pull the whole Israeli thing now, you know.
A coordinated strike designed to maximize impact before American markets opened. But guess what? This isn't about trade disputes or tariff disagreements. According to the joint statement released by all four governments, these sanctions are being imposed in response to documented corruption, constitutional violations, and the systematic undermining of democratic institutions that threatens the stability of the Western alliance. It's honestly hard to believe we've reached this point. This isn't just about strained diplomatic relationships or policy disagreements.
Hey, look, I've been saying it for years now, all right, especially since I started fighting Title 4D. Title 4D is unconstitutional. The IRS is unconstitutional. The Federal Reserve is unconstitutional. Many things that have been normal modus operatus, you know, normal operations in America has been unconstitutional, and all these and it's not until it started affecting the wealthy, the middle class, so everyone started taking notice of it.
See, but so now that it's affecting everybody, that's why you got certain people out here pointing out stuff, man, because it's affecting them. These rich people are, you know, coming out and starting to explain what's going on because it's affecting them now.
They've been operating outside of the, and it's not just Donald Trump, all the presidents before him. Basically, every president since 1913 has allowed unconstitutional things to happen here in America, to where Americans were just either too afraid or too stupid to question or stop a thing, taking away the gold and the silver standard. Extremely unconstitutional. If you did that, you know, 200 years ago, they would have went to war. They would have, you know, got rid of the government and put in a new one.
But they did that because why? Because they're trying to go digital, Jake. That's what they're doing.
We're talking about America's oldest allies treating the American president like they would treat a dictator from a hostile nation. And trust me, the implications for American power, prestige.
Because see, when you're the leader of the free world, supposedly, and you violate the laws of your own land, all right, and you do all these side deals and these dirty deals, and you're breaking the law, and the world is watching that, they're looking at you like, well, you can't lead. You're not a good leader for us, because you're putting us all in danger with the decisions that you're making. Right? Especially, it's plain to see, the whole world can see, if you say opposite, then you're a part of the problem. You're a part of that rulership, but the whole world can see that that the little hats are controlling everything here in America,
which is
and that the
first descendants of Esau. So now they're starting to see what they're doing in Gaza, and they're all big over here about still representing them and supporting them. But Trump is still doing dirty deals with a whole bunch of other people that don't like Israel. So they're like, man, you sloppy, man. And it's starting to be seen. This is why that's why he's saying the United Kingdom, the EU, and Australia is coming against this place. This is going to show you right here, Jeremiah 50, verse 11. It's going to show you right here that we know that Great Britain was going to do this, United Kingdom. Okay? Jeremiah 50, verse 11. Oh, because you rejoice, oh, ye destroyers of my inheritance. This is talking about them Edomites, including Amalek, the first descendants of Esau, the Rawchas, big banking companies that rule the media, rule the earth. That's over there in the land of Israel right now. The top officials, most of them is hiding in old Babylon, which is Iraq. But who knows? You got some of them over here too. But anyways, oh, ye destroyers of my inheritance, because ye are grown fat as a heifer at grass, and bellow as bulls. Right? Basically saying they made money off of slavery, destabilizing countries, making backdoor deals, stuff like that. Okay. Verse 12, your mother shall be sore confounded. Who's that talking about? Great Britain. Okay, which is basically connected with the United Kingdom, man. EU. That's all Great Britain and them over there, man. And they're like, nah, man, we can't keep dealing with you, because you everything you're doing is against what you saying you're doing. And your so-called constitution, man. She that bear you shall be ashamed. Behold, the hindermost of the nation shall be a wilderness, a dry land in the desert. It's not like over there in Babylon like that right now. It's a desert in a sense, but there's still people living there. It ain't just not gonna be it ain't just not inhabited anymore. And that's why it says over here in 13, because the wrath of the Lord, it shall not be inhabited. So if it was talking about old Babylon, there wouldn't be nobody over there right now. There wouldn't be nobody living in Iraq. Okay, it's talking about over here. But it shall be wholly desolate. For everyone that goeth by Babylon shall be astonished and shall hiss at her plagues. That's talking about over here. Verse 14, put yourselves in array against Babylon about, all you that have been to both, shoot at her, spare no arrows, which is talking about the missiles, for she has sinned against the Lord. And that's why they're making these sanctions, okay? Because they got over here, they're putting all these sanctions on everybody, but still allowing what they're doing, these small hats to destabilize places like Gaza. And then, they also fighting over there in Ukraine against Russia. Okay. So they're seeing that they're just sloppy, man. They're all over the place. Okay. And that's going to cause everybody to turn on this place, man. They're going to start being like, look, they don't got no interest in nothing but they self. Why would they want to stay here when they have half of the global GDP? I seen another article talking about, they was basically saying, China, there's a chance you might get a super earthquake and knock out 50% of your GDP and stuff. Like, that's basically them threatening them, because they got them weapon machines over here. Okay, so there's going to be a move made. There's going to be moves made, definitely sooner than later, man.
American government, and what this is really about, they're not saying. What it comes down to is the whole Epstein thing. It's beyond obvious that the American government, both parties, have been compromised and are not operating in that the capacity, in their administrative offices to where it's at the benefit of the nation or the people, nor of its allies.
And global standing
Right.
are absolutely devastating. Let me fill you in on what's been happening. The relationship between Trump and traditional American allies has been deteriorating since his first term. He questioned NATO commitments, insulted allied leaders, imposed tariffs.
And he did. He even threatened NATO. He threatened NATO and the EU. He wouldn't even be in the NATO. He was talking about he was going to jump out of NATO and the EU. This is all kind of stuff he was saying, man.
Canadian and European goods, and repeatedly suggested that America's security guarantees couldn't be trusted. From the get-go, allied governments were concerned that Trump viewed partnerships built over decades as transactional arrangements to be renegotiated or abandoned. But here's where the rubber meets the road. According to Politico's December 5th report, Allied intelligence services have been sharing information for months about what they describe as the complete breakdown of constitutional governance in the United States.
Okay.
The leaked financial...
There it is. So September 5th or December 5th this year, Politico was going into basically, what's going on over here, man. The disruption that's going on in the government, man. And Politico is an actual source. But like I said, they can't really put all this together and put that out there like that, man. They have to do it in a way where it's kind of like, they can't really be blamed for it, that they're pointing their stuff out. But, I advise you go watch the rest of the video. I don't want to keep y'all too long. So we're going to point out a couple more things speaking about Babylon over here in the Apocrypha. Okay. And Ezra, he was in the time where Babylon, we were already out of Babylon already, man. So we know when he spoke about this, he was talking about New Babylon, Babylon the Great. He was able to be expounded by the Heavenly Father about a lot of things. It's the second Ezra 16. Verse 26. And for y'all that don't know, Ezra is Esdras in the Bible. Esdras is his Greek name. Okay. Some of our people were speaking Greek around this time he was writing the scriptures. Most of our people. It's the second Ezra chapter 16, verse 26. And I want to point out something too, that we were talking about in class today. We had a short class. After I read this, I want to point out something. So second Ezra chapter 16, verse 23 or 26, the grass shall ripe, and who shall tread them? Hold on. For all places shall be desolate of men, right? Basically saying this place is going to, thin out of men through the draft and through this place, civil war. Verse 27, so that one man shall desire to see another and to hear his voice, right? Verse 28, for of a city there shall be 10 left and 2 of a field, which shall hide themselves in the thick groves and the clefts of the rocks, right? Verse 29, as in the orchard of olives, upon every tree there are left 3 or more olives, right? Or as when the vineyard is gathered, there are left some clusters of them that seek diligently to the vineyard. It's talking about what's going to be going over here in Babylon. Even in those days, there shall be 3 or 4 of them, 4 left by them that search their houses with the sword. Verse 32, and the earth shall be laid waste, and the fields thereof shall wax old, and her ways and all her paths shall grow full of thorns. See, it's her ways. That's talking about Babylon, because it said the great whore. It's talking about Babylon. Even when you go into Chat GPT and you ask about, let's do it to show you, it knows this is talking about Babylon. It knows. Like, you can ask it and it'll tell you. It's second Esdras. Hold on. It's lagging real quick. Second Esdras 16:32. Talking about, we'll say old, talking about the Neo-Babylonian Empire, or Babylon the Great. Let's see if he knows. Oh man, I didn't put it in type right. But he gonna know what I'm talking about. So see, he's gonna point this out. He says, look carefully at this. Second Esdras, also called 4 Ezra in some traditions, is apocalyptic text, which is talking about what? The end times. So it couldn't be talking about old Babylon. And 1632 says something the lines of, and I will show you the last times how they shall be, right? Followed by the descriptions of Babylon, desolation and justice, or in judgment. The key is understanding which for Babylon it refers to. It says Neo-Babylonian Empire, historical Babylon, 6th century BCE. So that couldn't be talking about the end times, because that's way back then. This is the empire, Nebuchadnezzar II, responsible for the destruction of Jerusalem and the temple in 586 BCE. We went into that, when you go into Daniel, the books of Daniel, we went and talked about all that, Some passages in the Bible, like Jeremiah, Daniel, Ezekiel, clearly refer the historical Babylon. Okay, but we know in Jeremiah 50, Jeremiah was talking about the ancient, the new Babylon, Babylon the Great. That's why he said it'll never be inhabited, because like we said, there's still people in Babylon after the old Babylon fell, and the Medo-Persian Empire took over. They were still in Babylon, so that would make sense. Babylon the Great, apocalyptic, symbolic Babylon. Apocalyptic scripture, second Esdras, Revelation, Babylon is often symbolic, a repetition of the ultimate wickedness and oppression, and idolatry of the world. That's talking about here. And second Esdras 16:32 describes the city being completely destroyed and never inhabited again, which fit the apocalyptic vision of Babylon the Great, rather than the historical Neo-Babylonian Empire, which eventually declined but didn't vanish instantly, as the vision describes. See? Conclusion. Second Esdras 16:32 is not talking about the historical Neo-Babylonian Empire. It is referring to Babylon the Great, a prophetic apocalyptic entity representing ultimate judgment and the end of wickedness. Even ChatGPT is going to tell you this is talking about Babylon the Great. And her ways and her path shall be full of thorns, because no man shall travel there through. It's talking about Babylon. Okay, here's another one. Second Esdras 1843. They went back and to the KJV standard. I got to hit the 1611 again. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what it's talking about. Hold on, man. Hold on real quick. Hold on. I wrote it wrong. Hold up. Nah, hold up. Yeah, I think I wrote it wrong. Hold up. Let me go grab it real quick. There's one specific I wanted to point out. I think it might be in 16 too. I just wrote it wrong. Hold up. So I don't want to leave it out. Oh, yeah, okay. Huh. Hold up real quick. Where's my apocrypha at? I might have to read in the scriptures. So they're not saying it's even in there. Hold on. Okay. Okay. It's actually in hold on. Because there ain't no 18th chapter. I was like, it's going off. Hold up real quick. It's just going off like a motherfucker. Yeah, okay. Yeah. That's what I thought. I was like, I know it ain't in there. All right, hold up. Let's go to 1633. Yeah, this is where I was at. It tried to bring me to a fake ass chapter. This is where I was trying to go to. It says, verse 33, the virgins shall mourn having no bridegrooms. It's talking about a lot of the men getting put to death through war and all that, and, World War III and whatnot, draft and everything. The women shall mourn having no husbands, and their daughters shall mourn having no helpers. Verse 34, in the war shall their bridegrooms be destroyed, and their husbands shall perish with famine. That's going, into people dying over here because there ain't going to be no food. So you go to Wisdom of Solomon, 17, verse 12. Let me go, wait. No, it's in 17. Yep. I'm going to get to the point, though. That's not what I wanted, though. Hold on. So basically, you know, when you go into Wisdom of Solomon 17:11, this is going into basically, you know, a reference going into how Babylon's going to be destroyed. This is the one I was looking for. Wisdom of Solomon 17:11, for wickedness condemned by their own witness, right? Condemned by her own witness. See, it says her. That's talking about Babylon the Great. Condemned by her own witness. It is very timorous, and being pressed with conscience always forecasteth grievous things. Verse 12, for fear is nothing else but betraying of the successors which reason offereth. We're going to read that in the GNT too. Kind of expound on it a little bit. See if they got the NLT of it. No, they don't. Oh, wait. That's what I typed in. Solomon. $17, $11. All right. So that in the GNT, it says wickedness is cowardly in itself and stands self-condemned. Wicked, let me see. Yeah. Just pull it up right here. So it says in itself, self-condemned, someone with a guilty conscience will always imagine things to be worse than they really are, but that ain't really what it's saying. Fear is nothing but the failure to use help that reason gives when you lack confidence to rely on reason. You give in the fears caused by turned on themselves. That's why a divided house can't stand. You know, so that's why you see a lot of them are turning on their own nation, and they coming against it, and they pointing out they supposed to represent. They supposed to, you know, themselves speaking against their own president, man. So that's how you know, like this talking about Babylon. That's what they're doing right now. So we're just gonna do Baruch chapter 5, verse 27, and we're gonna get out of here. I'm going slow. Hold up. It's probably not even 27. It's probably down there. No, it's in 5 though. Dang, man, my computer going slow as hell. Okay, so it's actually in the second chapter. That's not the one I'm looking for. It's in 1. Yeah. And it's in chapter 2. So this is Barak. Mm-hmm. Trying to get to the point. You know, this is going into how we got here, but there's a particular scripture. Okay. Yeah, it's up here. So we can just start at 30. And it reads, "For I know that they would not hear me because it is a stiff-necked people, but in the land of their captives they shall remember themselves." So that's where we're at right now, here in America, Babylon the Great, and across the four corners of the earth, after we've been scattered and basically delivered up to our enemies, you know, and basically he's giving us remembrance, you know, of the promise that he would destroy Babylon, and shall know that I am the Lord their power, Yahawashi, and I will give them a heart and ears to hear. This is basically understanding the truth, and they shall praise me in the land of their captivity and think upon my name and return from their stiff neck and from their wicked deeds, for they shall remember the way of their fathers which sinned before the Lord, which is basically talking about us, because you know, we had to have been there. We are our forefathers. And I will bring them again into the land which I promised with an oath unto their fathers Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and they shall be the lords of it, and I will increase them, and they shall not be diminished. Which is by what? This place getting destroyed. And I will make an everlasting covenant with them to be their power, and they shall be my people, and I will no more drive my people of Israel out of the land that I've given them. That's how you know that we're definitely not in the land right now. Okay? But Babylon has to be destroyed. But, you know, just wanted to show a couple precepts in you know, in Wisdom of Solomon and Second Esdras, you know, and Barak speaks of it in a sense where when you understand the prophecy, like it's basically talking about us being delivered out of Babylon the Great as well. So I just wanted to point out those things and, you know, go into the elders video and show that, like, it might look like it's not credible, but we seeing that you got particular sources that are pointing out particular things that are showing that, you know, America is seeing what they're saying and seeing what they're doing, and they're considering the EU as an enemy, man. We've seen that through Scott Ritter. Okay. So, you know, and he mentioned when I watched a little bit of it, he was talking about, like, all you got to do is really just listen to what Trump be saying, man. Because he doesn't really, like, hide his agenda, man. He, like, tells you what he's finna do. So, Lord, want us edifying to the flock. Shalom to elect to Israel. Shabbat shalom to elect to Israel. Hope elect to Israel. You know, we basically out of the Shabbat because it's past dark, but, you know, I want to give all praise to Barak, Yahawashi, double honors to those in the apostle, great millstone, let us all to the truth. Peace and blessings to the elect. Wa Ababa Kwam Yasharala. Shalom.